An industry trend that I've seen a lot that I really like is that larger companies are finally getting more interested in signage. The Intels of the world can now make scaling easier because they have enterprise-wide solutions available, and they make things more standardized, more plug and play, so it'll make life easier on the technology end. But I think there's still a lot of room for innovators and small contributors to bring those ideas to the market that then you can integrate with the mass market solutions from the larger companies. I think it's pretty exciting that both trends are moving forward and making the industry mature much more quickly. If I were talking to somebody who hadn't started a network yet and was looking at it, I'd say that you should start with a small pilot, start small, but act like you have 1,000 screens, because decisions you make now in setting up the network will carry over to when you do have 1,000 screens, and it's very difficult to change once the ship has sailed. So if you implement a process that is scalable and that you can use on a larger system, you're in far better shape than if you do one-off processes for each different installation, because if you have 1,000 screens, you're going to have 1,000 processes and 1,000 different ways to service that installation. So I would say standardize early and often. I'm learning new things about the industry every day. I've been to probably 30 sessions in the 3 years I've been here. We've gone to a lot of them, and many of them are geared toward first-time users, toward starting out and setting up. But even now that we have a network up and running, we're still learning things about how to do things better, how to do things different. There are an evolution of content options. The content production style is never going to stay static. It's going to change. It's going to modernize. It's always going to be different, and you need to keep in touch with those cutting-edge trends to keep your screens looking as cutting-edge and current as you want them to look. Right now we're at about 750 screens, but we are adding more every quarter. We've got one customer that adds 30 to 40 every quarter. As branches are remodeled or built, we're adding more signage there. We've got 13 employee-facing systems, and we've got 5 more waiting for either physical assessment or equipment ordering or content development. So we've got customers waiting on us to add more. So we'll be adding more for at least several years. That's not including a wide-scale rollout for the rest of our branches, because right now we've got 5,000 branches, or 6,000 branches, but 5,000 of them have satellite-delivered digital signage. So it's one message fits all. Our goal eventually is to replace all those satellite receivers with players. That won't be this year, but eventually we hope to have a much larger network with very targeted content for each player. For the network at its current size, about 750 players, we have one full-time graphic designer. We get content from some outside sources as well. We have 2 full-time distribution managers who specialize in creating custom templates and custom messaging and creating the playlists for each system application. We've got a resource of 3 technical folks who are not dedicated to digital signage, but we can call on when we need them, and they're a great asset to have. We use them a lot. We've got one manager, and then we've got a technical lead who takes care of system design and ordering equipment and speccing installations for us. So we've got a team of about 5 who maintain those screens, and we're looking to probably increase that as we roll out to more and more screens. Finding talent with digital signage experience has proven a bit difficult. We've been lucky to find people who have either web development experience or other experience that applies to digital signage, and with a little tweak and direction, they do very well at what they do. Our 2 content distributors started as a web developer and one as a graphic designer. So they really apply those skills daily in not only creating the templates, but in creating the distribution patterns to send those out. We work very closely with the marketing and creative teams to come up with the content. We consult with them on what works best for a given screen configuration or a zone of the store, of the branch. What we find works best, is most effective, is content that is relevant, not only to the screen type, but to where the screen is placed. If it's a waiting area, you'll have different content than if it's a sales area. And then the content has to be relevant to the larger branch as well, such that if you can have local news headlines for, say, Washington, D.C., instead of national news headlines, they get a lot more attention. If we use video clips from the Washington, D.C. market instead of from Utah, it also attracts a lot more attention, and people pay a lot more attention, and therefore pay attention to the product messaging that follows. We show street scenes behind our RSS feeds for news and weather. And we've overheard people in the branches, when they see a news headline over a video background from their city, they ask the teller, is that live? It's tape delayed by at least a month. We've done a few pilots using mobile in conjunction with the screens. We've tried some text messaging, some polling. We haven't dipped our toe into those waters too far yet, but we definitely plan on it more in the future. I think the biggest challenge that we're going to have in the near future is the tidal wave of data that's coming. There are going to be geolocation sensors, there are going to be sensors in the floor, there are going to be sensors everywhere, and all that data can be great in tailoring your playlist to be relevant to the customer, but you're going to need assets and people and machines to store that data, to interpret that data, and to apply that data. So I think we need to start now in being purposeful in what data we need to capture, how long we need to hold it, and what we'll be able to use it for. The Digital Signage Expo is a very collaborative atmosphere. We can learn so much from other industry verticals, from other providers, from other content creators. There are best practices to apply from everywhere. And the vendors and the customers here, the people in the seminars are all very willing to share best practices and tips and tricks. And I like to think, in fact, I was speaking with one of our competitors this morning who does digital signage for a competitor. And we decided that we'd love to compete with each other instead of competing against each other, and share the non-vital, non-critical information, the non-competitive information that will make both our lives easier. And I think that happens frequently here. I think Google entering the digital signage space is going to be big. It will change some games, but not all games. They won't be the only game in town. There are other large players now in digital signage as well. And while I think Google will have some great things to offer, I think the other providers will step up and up their game as well, and that collaborative, competitive spirit will lift all boats.